Here we're going to look at solving equations with several variables. So given the equation, find the value of the missing variable. So if we have a equals 1/2 b times h, if a equals 10 and h equals 4. Now you may recognize this is the area of a triangle. So area is 1/2 base times height. So if we know the area is 10 and the height is 4, it's just substitution. So you say 10 equals 1/2 b times 4. Okay, so then you want to solve that for the missing variable. Well, the variable we don't know is b. So we can use the commutative property of multiplication, which says you can multiply 1/2 times 4. So we have 10 equals half of 4 is 2 times b. So we have 2 times b is 10, so divide by 2, and that'll give you 5 equals b. Now I didn't put units in here like inches, centimeters, anything like that, just to keep it more basic. Okay, so with these few examples here, it's just a matter of substituting the variables that we know and then solving for the variable that we don't know. So you can go ahead and try number 2 and 3, and I'll put the answers up so you can see how to do those. So if you need to pause the video to work on those, go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and put the answer key up. So pause the video and then start it again when you're ready. Okay, so here's the two answers for numbers 2 and 3. In number 2, we are trying to find the value of w. So when you substitute the value of L, which is 6, 2 times 6 gives you 12, subtract 12 from each side, and solve it, you end up with 19. Okay, and what that is the perimeter of a rectangle. Twice the length plus twice the width equals perimeter. Okay, and then the third one, this is actually a formula for simple interest. I don't expect you to memorize that, I'm just telling you what it is. The amount that you're going to pay back in interest, or the total amount you pay back, is the principal, P, plus the principal times the rate times the time. So the principal is 2,000, the rate is 0.10, or 10%, and then T equals 5, that means you have 5 years of interest. So substitute the values in, and you end up with 2,000 plus 1,000, which is 3,000. Okay, so that's just substituting in for a variable and solving for the variable that we don't know. Okay, in the next section, it says solve for the indicated variable. Now here, notice that we have a equals 1/2 b times h, but they don't give us any values. It just says solve for h. So you do this basically doing the same steps you did before, except now we can't take half of 4 because we don't know that h is 4. So in order to get h, we want to get h all by itself. So we need to get rid or undo the 1/2. Well, to get rid of multiplying by half, you can divide by a half or multiply by 2. Okay, so when you do that, you end up with 2a equals b times h. That's just multiplying both sides by 2. And then to get h equals, this is b times h, so you divide each side by b. And that'll give you 2a divided by b gives you h. Okay, so notice we don't end up with a number for an answer because we have two variables, a and b, that we don't know. So you can't get a number for an answer like we did in the first one up here. Okay, b equals 5. Okay, so the next one, I want you to solve for a. So that means we need to get a all by itself. So if we have 3 times a minus c equals 8, to get a all by itself, we need to get rid of subtracting c. So you can imagine if that just said 3a minus 2 equals 8, wouldn't you add 2 to each side? Well, this is instead of having minus a number 2, we have minus a variable c. But the steps would be the same. You would add whatever c is to each side. So if you add c to each side, you'll end up with 3a equals c plus 8. And then if you have 3 times a equals c plus 8, to get rid of multiplying by 3, or to undo multiplying by 3, you divide by 3. So that'll give you c plus 3 over 8. I'm sorry, c plus 8 over 3. Now another way you can write that is you can break that apart into 2 fractions, c over 3, and then plus 8 over 3. Okay, so that's also an acceptable answer to have. Okay, number 6. Okay, if you want to try that one, you want to solve that equation for y, which means you want to get y equals. Okay, so I would say pause the video, and then I'll go over the answer quickly. Okay, so to get rid of the 2x, because you want to get y equals, so get rid of 2x, you subtract it from each side. So subtract 2x from each side. So when to get rid of that 2x, you're going to have a negative 5y left over, and then equals 7 minus 2x. And you can also write that as negative 2x plus 7. That'd be fine. Okay, and then to get rid of that negative 5, that's multiplied by the y. So to undo multiplying by negative 5, you divide by negative 5. So when you do that, you end up with y equals 7 minus 2x over negative 5. And just like the last one, if you want to break that apart into 2 fractions, you can. We have 7 over negative 5, and then negative 2x over negative 5 will be y equals negative 7/5 plus 2/5 x. Okay, so the 2 negatives make a positive here. Okay, and then if you want to try the last 3, you can pause the video and I'll go over the answers quicker on these. Okay, so pause the video and then start it back up when you're ready. Okay, so number 7. This is similar to number 6. You want to solve for y, so you get rid of the x by subtracting it. Okay, and then that'll give you negative 4y equals negative 20 minus x. And then to get rid of the negative 4, it's multiplied by y, so you divide by negative 4. And again, you can write that in the 2 different ways. Okay, negative 20 over negative 4 turns into positive 20 over 4, or just 5. And then a negative x, remember that's really negative 1x divided by negative 4. So you can reduce that to 1/4 x. Okay, so positive 1/4 x. Okay, and then for 8 and 9, to solve for c here, you want to get rid of the dividing by 5. So multiply by 5, and that gives you 5a equals b minus 3c. And then to get c equals, you need to get rid of the b, and then get rid of the negative 3. So get rid of the b is subtracting b to each side. So minus b minus b. And then get rid of the negative 3 by dividing by negative 3. Okay, and again, there's the 2 different ways you can write that. Okay, number 9, you want to solve for y. So I suggest you clear the fractions by multiplying by a. And if you multiply by a, what happens is they cancel in the fractions here, and then you're left with 1 times a over here. So multiplying both sides by a gives you x plus y equals a. And then subtract the x to get y equals. Okay, so that's just a basic rundown of how to solve equations with several variables.